Wow, welcome to episode. Okay, so I counted Alicia. This is episode 23 of Branding and the Beast, otherwise known as season 3, episode 3.
I thought it was 22.
No, we have lost track.
It's season
Or is
3,
it? I don't know.
episode 4.
Oh, who knows? You know what? You're back. You're with us. We're glad you're here. That's really all that counts, right? You're right. I think I'm actually completely off. I have no idea anymore.
It's just a number. It's just a number.
Like age, we are getting better, like a fine wine, with each passing episode.
Yes. We're our memories might be going, but we're getting better as people.
We are getting better as people and as podcast hosts. My name is Sean Bernstein from the Right Stuff Agency. My exceptional co-host with no memory is
Alicia DeSantis, owner of 38th and Kip Studio, a branding, design, and illustration studio.
I am so glad you're here, Alicia. I'm glad that we're doing this. I'm glad that we're making this episode happen. I'm just muting my phone because that's what you do when you host a podcast. Although making sure that, our guests can reach me if need be, which is also kind of important. So I'm doing double duty on that end because I am very excited for our guests today and to hear what they have to say. They are so bright and so smart.
Yes, and I don't know either of them at all. I've never actually talked to either of them beyond an email. So did a bit of due diligence and research on them. And today we're talking about coaching.
Yes, we're talking about coaching. One of these guests happens to be my coach. The other one happens to be a very close friend who is also a coach. I have networked them because that's what networking does. They have gotten together, they have talked shop, they have talked coaching. And so I'm really curious to hear what they both have to say today.
Yeah, and this area isn't something I know much about. I've never had a formal business coach. I've had managers and colleagues throughout my life who have been instrumental in who I am today. But Sean, I'll certainly lean on you more for this episode because you are actively in it right now.
Well, and actually, funny enough, Eitan and I have finished our work together, but I do think that's an interesting question of what's the difference between sort of formal and informal coaching, and maybe that's one we can ask them as well. We've all had coaches. None of us gets to the top alone. So we've all had coaches. We've all had mentors. I just did a networking breakfast this morning talking about, each of us has our village and who do we lean on for support. One of my first clients in my business was a realtor who happens to be an old friend. I won't say a close friend, not somebody that I spend a lot of time with or know particularly well, but he is a good friend. And he had been on his own as an entrepreneur for many years before I worked with him. He was the first person to really take a chance on me that hadn't worked with me previously. And he was a great coach and a great mentor, not formally. I did send him a Tim's card or two, but, not anything formal, but he really gave me some great guidance about, client management, how to run my business, how to sort of deal with problems as they arise. I'm grateful to him for his help.
Do you want to say his name?
Yeah, his name's Richard Frankel. He is a absolute gentleman. He is a realtor out in my area in Durham region. I'll give Richard full credit. I've worked with a lot of realtors since, done a lot of work in the real estate space since, but there's a great photo we can share on the video of Richard and I at my 5th anniversary party. And I think I actually called him out in my speech there because, I give him a lot of credit for helping me get off to a really solid foundation.
Yeah. There's something really special about coaches that will take time out of their day to help you. I think of, I've had several informal coaches, and I really use the term coaches loosely. They were more of mentors or people I could just, if I had any questions at all, they were the people that I'd go to. And they just accepted me as I was and didn't judge, and that's really an incredible thing. And one of those people was my former manager when I worked at the credit union organization, who's still a good friend of mine today. and he was my manager for 5 or 6 years. And together, he and I went through this technological overhaul of the organization. So it was our first marketing automation software. It was the first like streamlining of email campaigns and websites and all of these things. And he was so patient with me. He was patient with me when I was in my early 20s. I mean, I'm talking like 24, 25. So he should get some sort of award or something even for dealing with me at that time. But he taught me so much about business and like the social components of business that are more difficult to learn. And his name is Dan Burke. So he's just retired. But he was hugely instrumental to me. And I don't think we give these people that we come across in our life enough credit, whether we're paying them or not paying them, for what they do to us, both for our brand, our business, and emotionally.
Full credit to Dan if you're listening, number one. Hope you are. Hi, Dan.
I don't know if he's even on. He better listen to this.
Yeah, listen, maybe we can get a hold of him. That'd be cool.
Yeah,
Another listener.
Wow, yeah. No, he's
What
got
are we
time
going
on
to do
his
with
hands
two
now.
of them?
But who's the other one?
I don't know. I think there's someone in Kansas City who, uses this to fall asleep. Last I heard.
So okay, well I'm gonna do another shout out to another person who I wouldn't say she's a coach, but certainly a mentor, and that's someone you know as well,
Okay.
Sean. Sarah Alexich.
Aw, Sarah.
I will make sure she watches this. She's one of those people that she's a wealth of information, and at any time I can be like, hey, can you just look at this for me? Can you just make sure the sentence doesn't sound weird? Can you make sure I'm on the right path? Like someone who at any time of day I can text. As a business owner, it's lonely it's lonely up here, right?
Yep.
It's lonely to be. People think it's all fun and games and you're seeing people all the time and doing fun stuff. No, it's very isolating.
I'll also give credit to another former guest, Jared Kligerman, who we talked about, creating your own brand. I joke that Jared was really one of my first adult friends, and that, we're only about 2-3 years apart, but Jared's a grown-up, and Jared kind of has his life together, or at least has, gives off the beautiful appearance of having his life together. He really does, though, and he's just a very wise man who kind of has, I think, early on understood how the world works. It has been phenomenally helpful at every stage of my business, from introductions and support and, client referrals, which is always appreciated, to just been able to field questions. And I've done, much the same for him on certain things, and he's come to me, which is very flattering. So sometimes it's not necessarily, a one-way street. Sometimes it is in that two-way. And it really is helpful to have somebody who, speaks your language and knows what you do and just knows how business and the world works. Some things, no matter what your industry is, don't change.
Right. And so I know we're going to let our guests in just a minute here, but I would like to ask you, since we're in unique situations here, why did you hire a coach for your business?
For me, I had tried working with coaches in the past who may have been great coaches. And, I was lucky enough to find them. But I wasn't ready. I have a lot of trauma from my old career that I've talked about openly. And a lot of the business decisions that I had made when I started my business were based in responses to that trauma and things that I, quote, never wanted to be or never wanted to do because I had been there and I'd done that. And I really had, tried to avoid that. And that was how I governed a lot of my actions. And when I tried working with a coach, it kept kind of unlocking a lot of that past trauma. And I said, no, I'm not ready for this. I don't want to do this. I'm not mentally well enough to do this. And I hit the point when I hit the 5-year mark in my business where I said, if I don't make some changes now, nothing will change in my business. Period. It's gone well. It's feeding me. It's made a nice living. A lot of people start a business and don't last 5 months, let alone 5 years. So I did take, a couple days to pat myself on the back. That's great. But I didn't want to rest on those laurels. I wanted to say, okay, what's next? What's the next stage of this business? And really, it was about realizing that if I don't change anything, nothing will change on its own. As I came to find out, working with a coach, working with Eitan, who has, a very different approach from Hannah, and they'll talk about that on the podcast, it wasn't for me about making significant changes. It wasn't really about overhauling my business. It wasn't about totally reinventing the wheel. It was about sort of small, incremental things that I could do to help get me where I wanted to go. And I'm on the way to getting there, which is really quite exciting. So we want to welcome our guests, and I'm going to handle the intros today because they're two folks that I happen to know very well, and they sent me their bios, so I think that puts me in the best position to do it. We have the incredible Eitan Marcus and Hannah Schwartz, and let me do some intros, and I can talk about really off the cuff why they're so incredible. So Eitan's business is called Catalyst for Impact. He is a business coach that really focuses on helping people gain the clarity they need to take courageous action, build something deeply meaningful, and grow sustainably without losing themselves in the process. His approach is a really calm, empowering one that helps people cut through the noise and take action and, get into the mind shift set they need to succeed. Eitan, I could have written this better. Come on, buddy. What are we doing here? I will rewrite your bio, but I can talk all day about Eitan's really calm and empowering approach, because I think that's actually on the money. That's exactly what he brings to the table. It's not coaching that throws the book at you. It is coaching that puts you in the driver's seat and helps you decide on how you're going to get to where you want to go. Hannah's bio is a little more freeform, as she's ready to literally throw the book that Eitan does not throw the book at. Hannah is a human whirlwind, I think, is probably the best way to describe her. Power on fire is probably what I would use. Her new tagline is that she connects people. That is her thing. Hannah connects people. Hannah gets things done. Hannah is a one-woman tour de force that has been focusing her career for the past several years on empowering entrepreneurs and building communities for entrepreneurs, starting a print magazine in an era where no one expected to start a print magazine for entrepreneurs, building an online community. She still has the magazine. She is a public speaker, a frequent keynote speaker, business strategist. I have referred her clients and watched her shine with them. She also, in that same vein, helps people get to where they want to go. Her phrase, and I've used it in a post this week on LinkedIn, is heck yes. If it's not a heck yes, it's not happening. It's on the mug. That. It's not a heck yes, it's not meant to be. I've introduced Hannah and Eitan, and they've had great conversations. I was saying in the intro before you guys got here about coaching. They take very different approaches, I think I can say, to how they do their work, but have tremendous respect for each other and recognize, the differences in how things are done. I actually want to go to the question that we were talking about before you guys came in, because Alicia has not worked with a coach before. She was talking about some of the mentors she's had in past roles in business, etc. So how would you define, I'm going to open up to both of you, how do you define the difference between sort of that informal mentorship, whether it's, through business, through a boss, through a supportive colleague, etc., versus an actual professional coaching relationship?
That's a great question. I don't know that there is much of a difference. In practice, it's a person that you can confide in, that you can get advice from, that probably has done the thing that you want to do, whether that's in your career or your business or in your life. I would probably say that's how I would define a mentor. A coach might bring more specific frameworks or more specific approaches or methodologies that will help you get there. And the relationship is less like a friend and typically more like there's a partnership as opposed to a mentor who might be a little bit less formal. But I'm curious, Hannah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a ginormous difference between both a mentor, an ongoing friend or colleague, and a coach or strategist that you'd work with, primarily because of the steady pace. you know that you're going to be seeing this coach or this strategist regularly, which holds you very highly accountable to the work that you're doing with them, be it short-term or long-term, regardless. There's also no give and take. So when you go into a therapist chair, for example, you're not expecting them to return your storytelling with their own storytelling, similar to coaching. Wherein if you're going to talk to a colleague, a friend, or sometimes even a mentor, they'll have a lot to say on their own to grow themselves. It's more collaborative growth. And so to hold yourself more accountable and to grow faster and stronger, a coach and a strategist will definitely help you get there faster than a mentor will.
Yeah.
I think those are really solid. I will jump in, Alicia. I'm going to give you the floor in a second, but
Sure.
as a recent client, I think that accountability piece is key. I'm not always the most diligent with that sort of thing, but working regularly with Eitan, we had our weekly appointment, and so I knew that there were things that I wanted to get done within that week. Sometimes that meant doing them the morning of or the night before. And, the week got crazy and things got busy and I had clients on the go, et cetera, et cetera. So, was I always implementing things every single day throughout that week? No, I wasn't. Some clients, I'm sure, are much better at it than I was, and everyone's different. But I knew that I wanted to get certain things done by that next piece. If it wasn't getting done, I at least wanted to know why. I just wanted to unpack, okay, was this the right step for me? Was it just not a practical expectation? Or was there something that we, maybe need to tweak in our approach? So it did give me a lot of focus in that.
I love that. So I'm curious to know, before we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode, do you guys say that in Canada? Meat and potatoes?
But now there's a tariff on it, so
But now there's a tariff on the meat and potatoes, yes.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
That'll be a really dated joke,
I
hopefully,
literally
by the time
have
we air this episode.
there's nothing I can say about that right now. I'm just
No, hopefully that'll be an old joke that people go, oh, God, a tariff joke? I thought those were done.
I know. Okay, all right. Before the meat and potatoes, I'll start with you, Hannah. How did you get involved in this industry, and why did you get involved in it when you could be doing anything else?
Yeah, so I was actually a real estate agent. I was a real estate agent, and my target audience was entrepreneurs. I was helping entrepreneurs buy and sell homes. And in doing so, I ended up connecting with entrepreneurs on the daily. And somehow entrepreneurs started asking me for business advice. Can't tell you how, can't tell you why. But majority of my calendar was actually booked with entrepreneurs wanting to ask me for referrals or business advice instead of showings, which is what you want in entrepreneurship. In real estate. And I found that whenever people would ask me for a showing, I was like, oh, I wish this was a business meeting. And then one day someone said, I'll pay you to consult. And I remember laughing out loud on the phone and I'm being like, I'm a realtor. I'm a real estate agent. Do you want a home? Anyhow, I decided within, I think, 2 weeks of that to drop my license and to launch a business. And I signed my first client within 2 weeks after that at a coffee date, which I actually framed the napkin of up there. And then it just took off. And so it all happened because people started asking me business questions.
Right on. I love that. I love that. And you and I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Eitan?
There you go.
Eitan.
Right
Okay.
on the
I keep
money.
wanting to say Eitan. Eitan.
I've gotten every iteration of my name, so it's all good. I know
right.
you're referring to me. For me, I think it kind of starts with studying industrial design in university and realizing that I didn't really want to make stuff. I was more of a thinker than a maker. So I went into the strategy and consulting world and then got really frustrated with the fact that most of the work that we did was really good, but it died in some slide deck somewhere. No one looked at it. No one made any sort of change. And I always wanted to have an impact. So my way of doing that was deciding to have a more direct impact, helping people make real change, not just talking about it. And it sort of was the natural next step for me as someone who's always had friends and colleagues that confided in me as a mentor, as sort of an informal coach. And I'm quite good at having deep conversations and asking powerful questions. So it just made sense that that was where I would actually be able to have an impact. And in one conversation, I can help somebody change the trajectory of their business or their life. And that's a lot more meaningful than building a PowerPoint deck.
Feel that.
It's kind of funny to think we actually have 2 art school grads on a 4-person podcast. So afterwards, you guys will definitely have to talk shop and bring out
Yeah.
Eitan's creative side. I think you'll have a lot to discuss there. We talk about branding a lot here. We talk about, the different elements of branding and whether you are a professional or building a business, etc. You're always building a brand, whether it's your personal brand or your business brand. Why is coaching so important for that, would you say? How does coaching help people get there?
This is a huge one actually for Eitan. So I'm going to speak for Eitan here. When Eitan works with his clients, he really helps them understand what they love and then how to do what they love. He works a lot in mindset. I'm just taking over this answer for Eitan. Because him and I work entirely differently. And so for him, I think the branding, I promise I will let you speak on this yourself. But I just think you really help business owners really understand and identify who they are and what they offer, which really helps with their brand. I will help them take action on that. So I'll help them decide how to move forward with the branding. But as far as what your brand is, I'll let Eitan take the floor.
You're sort of alluding to what I was going to say, I think a lot of people skip the foundations because it's so easy when something's new and novel and I'm going to build a business and I'm going to hire a design team or I'm going to do it myself on AI or Canva or something. And they're just trying to get the visuals and the copy just right until it's perfect so that they can take the step where they actually go after getting business. And I think what I've noticed is the best brands actually come out of people who have conviction around who they are, how they serve their customers, and the value that the product or service that they're building is going to help create. And then when that's really clear, everything else falls into place. Messaging is much easier to craft. Networking happens much more targeted. You actually know who you want to talk to, or you attract the right kind of people with the content that you're putting out, or however you're promoting yourself. And everything kind of falls into place afterwards. But if you don't have clarity on that, you might just end up with a really pretty website that doesn't really articulate who you are, who you help, and how you do that. And I think that is where a lot of people can get tripped up and spend too much time and too much money when they don't really have the fundamentals in place.
Absolutely. I think when it comes to branding, also, a lot of people assume that it's like all fonts and colors. When for the most part, when it comes to business owners, especially service-based business owners, this also follows through with like creatives and like product-based entrepreneurs, also freelancers, musicians, all people that are trying to create like an idea into a business. A lot of branding actually comes out in personality and how people see you. And to figure out more about who you are and how you want to offer your services will help find little pieces of your brand. Like, for example, I'm not wearing it right now, but a huge part of my brand is red lipstick. And it's just become part of my branding so much so that people will send me pictures when they're at the mall trying to find red lipstick, or they'll send me pictures, like selfies of them in red lipstick. And then champagne, someone recently posted a video of her celebrating with champagne and tagged me in it. And so these are just little pieces that otherwise you wouldn't think about when it comes to branding. I don't specifically help with this, but it's such a good thought process to consider that, or a thought plan to consider that a lot of branding is actually in personality.
Mm-hmm.
I would just love to segue into something I just talked about, which is the brand archetype wheel. And what you're saying is so exacting around this methodology that I use. Is one of the probably top 3 foundational principles of my brand strategy work, which is all around personality and the 12 types of brand archetypes that exist across every single brand. So, which is an organization, a celebrity, a politician, sports, anything that someone follows someone is a brand, essentially, right? So, Hannah, what you're saying exactly aligns with this concept of the personality, who you are trying to what your organization stands for, what's the tone, what words you use. Because at least in the English language, I mean, you can have one word in a website headline or in an email campaign, and that word can be swapped with 11 other words that reflect the tone of your brand archetype. And these are the things people don't think of when they use ChatGPT or disparate copywriters, various things like that, or you don't even have a copywriter, you try to do it yourself, is that it's like you're talking to a half dozen different brands and you don't really even know who the hell you're talking to. So this speaks very strongly to me. And Sean, I'm sure you would you would second this, because this is also what you do for a living, right? Tone and personality is so critical in writing.
As I unmute myself. Exactly. No, really, it's people look on. I talk about both sides of my mouth all the time. On the one hand, nobody reads anymore, and we don't read like we used to when we're used to sort of these quick hits and quick headlines and quick sentences and, clickbait, et cetera, et cetera. But people still do read, and they do pay attention, and they do focus on the words that you use. And there's more reading that we, think happens more than we give ourselves credit for. So people do notice how you present yourself in words as well as in actions. And if those two don't match, if there's a serious discord between what people think you are and what people say you are, people notice.
Absolutely.
People notice.
Yeah, to Eitan's point and to yours, Eitan said a lot of people skip to branding before they really, figure out what they want to be doing. And that's a huge asset to working with a coach or a strategist, is you could, as Alicia, as you just said, you could use like 17 or 11 different words that all say the same thing. And so if you really work with a coach or a strategist and figure out what it is you really want to be doing, you could probably find those keywords. I call them keywords. You could probably find those keywords that you can easily use on repeat, that when someone else is using them in a sentence, they might actually start thinking about you, right? Even though they're a simple English word. And so it's really useful to work with a strategist or a coach to really help you hone in on what it is that you want to even offer. So then you can start figuring out those words, and then you can start working with branding people and copywriters to help you make that into a full story.
I'm going to jump in for the fact that as much as I have hired Eitan to be my coach, and I've talked about that before you got here, and we've worked together formally, the first person on this podcast I hired was actually Alicia. And Alicia and I did a brand strategy exercise together in 2021 when we first met. Oh my goodness, we are
I don't even
back.
remember the time.
Oh, I remember it very well.
Oh, I remember this meeting. I don't remember 2020 to like 2024.
Those years are kind of a blur, a weird few years, as I call it. But no, we did work together very early on to do a proper brand strategy exercise, because I had to say to myself, as my business was growing, I had to kind of take a step back and go, okay, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this? What do I have here? What does this become? And I asked myself that question regularly, I think, as most entrepreneurs do. But it was certainly one that I had to ask early on, or else I was just going to kind of get lost in the tide.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And I think that everyone speaking on this show today is the power of strategy, and I cannot emphasize that enough. So I would like to ask our next question around talking about the misconceptions around not having strategy or thinking you can just dive into action-based items. What are some other misconceptions that you have around coaching and business success in general? And Hannah, I'll start with you. If you want to speak for everyone on the call, or if you just want to speak for yourself this time.
Take it away.
I could speak for myself this time, because I do have a misconception that I talk to about or with all of my clients before they sign with me, which is there's a huge misconception that when you work with a strategist or a coach, you will have immediate income come into your bank account. It's like, I've signed you. How am I not a millionaire? And so I always talk to my clients and I actually share that you will lose money in the first 3 months of working with me. And their eyes always just like widen. And I like to preface this before we sign anything. And I have a line that I say, which is, we can't build strategy on stress. And so we actually have to clear a lot of your calendar, which means we are also clearing out discovery calls. We are clearing out the clients that you don't want to be working with, even though you are, you're in scarcity mindset. So you feel as though you need to take on all the clients. And we're going to actually clear out a lot of your calendar so that we can build from a strategic point, so that we can build to flourish and to prosper, which does mean you will lose money at the beginning while working with me. And it happens every time. I just had a client where 2 months in, she said, oh, I started losing money, but I'm not scared because you told me that would happen. And so it feels really nice. I had another client say the same thing a month ago. She's like, well, I'm not doing as well as I was last month, but I know what's coming. And so I think that's the big misconception I work through with my clients.
That's a really good one. And I love the fact that you position yourself around losing money at first, because that just opens up so much more opportunity. Once you start getting on the right track, then the win feels even bigger because you kind of expected it to dip first, which is really cool. I would say in the coaching space for me, what comes to mind is that the coach is there to tell you what to do. There are people who invest, a lot of money and expect, okay, now everything's going to be just fine. The best coaches that I've worked with and the best coaches that I know in the space, they're not going to give you a checklist of things to do. Usually the 20% of tactics that you need to solve the problem that you're working on are available widely for free online or in a book or on a podcast. And so most of the work that you do is mindset related, and the shifts that you make to actually understand that you can achieve what you're trying to achieve, that you believe in yourself enough, that you're not having all these reasons why you can't do something. So I would say it's about getting clear enough to trust your own decisions and then taking the steps that are courageous to actually expand what feels comfortable and step into some new identity, whether it's an entrepreneur or a leader. And this isn't true just for people who are struggling. Even the people who have success, whatever that means to them, they would still benefit from the fact that they can have somebody in their corner helping them take bolder steps, work through their upper limit problems, as Gay Hendricks refers to it, and stay accountable to this bigger, bolder future that they envision for themselves.
I want to speak to those points because Eitan won't talk about our time together, but I'm happy to because, he respects confidentiality. I don't. But I mean, as a lawyer, I do. But, anyway. All that said, we worked together for 3 months, and there was really 2 huge learnings, I think, that jumped to mind for me every day that came out of it. The first was exactly what you just talked about, was that I was thinking that my road to success, I'm looking to, not 10x my income, but I'm looking to improve my revenue and I'm looking to grow my business in certain ways. And I have what I thought was an idea of what that looked like. And I thought there was some magic switch. I thought that it was, okay, here's a thing that I'm not doing that, boom, flip that switch. Here's what I could be doing. And suddenly, it's going to unlock this whole world of potential. And that wasn't it. What we actually, what he really helped me to realize, what we came to together was that it's not. I'm doing a lot of right things. And by staying the course and really sort of making some small changes and some different focus areas, it's going to get me where I want to go. Maybe it won't be in exactly the timeline that I expected, but it's going to be what gets me there. I really am on the right track, which was huge. The other piece, and it's interesting to talk about here because it's such a vulnerable moment, and I've talked about it a bit publicly, but talking about it on the podcast, was we hit a realization after a couple of weeks where things just kind of weren't clicking. And we kind of had to look at what's really going on here. And I said 2 magic words that entrepreneurs, I think, don't often say out loud. I'm bored. I was getting bored with what I was doing. I was really kind of stuck in a rut with where I was in my business, and I love my clients and I do love the work, and I'm not overhauling it completely, but I also need to take on some new challenges. I needed to sort of make a bit of a pivot in how I was doing things, that I needed some projects that are going to really help me stretch my wings so I don't become completely mechanical in what I was doing. And we've worked towards that. And it's funny, Hannah, even though we're not working together, I just had a slower month, which also meant me signing my biggest client to date. at the same time in the same breath. So, that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
Eitan's pledge going in, but that is how it happened. It took a lot of work to get that client signed. But I'm so excited. It's a whole new style of project for what I've been doing. I'm excited to do more of them. I feel like I can take on the world now. So it really is a shift in my business. And it wasn't this, monumental, hey, say 3 magic words and suddenly open sesame, the floodgates open. It wasn't like that. But I can see the road ahead from sticking with a lot of what I was doing.
Love that. So I want to ask a question about opinions and hot takes. I want to ask Eitan first, because you seem so mild-mannered. I want to ask you for your hottest take. I want to know something that we are all just going to be like, our jaws are going to drop when you tell us. What's in your industry? What is an opinion you have? Or what's something that, unpopular opinion, hot take you have on what you do and what you see in business strategy and branding?
I see a lot of people talking about building massive audiences and super complicated funnels, and I don't think you need any of that to have a successful, thriving business. What worked really well for many, many years was relationships, and it still works. And I think you don't need to build an audience, you don't need a website, you don't need content creation. If you have a small, well-nurtured network, that'll get you further than just some random social media following. And it's really about getting curious and have conversations with people that leads to work. You don't even need a niche at first, really. You could just get curious, have conversations, and if there's something that you can help with, ask permission, and usually that's how you end up with clients at first. So a lot of the gurus are promoting all of the other things, and I think it's often just a distraction from the fundamental work of building relationships and nurturing your network. Was that hot enough?
I say not having a website is pretty hot.
It's a heresy. What, are you trying to talk me out of work?
I don't have one. I have a domain, and I've been okay. So
Hey, I asked for it. Can't
Yeah.
stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen.
Bingo.
All right,
Bingo.
All right, Hannah, you got to top that.
My hot take. I just think that coaches have a really bad rep. I just think that everybody and their monkey's uncle could become a coach, which is a little bit difficult in the arena of coaching. And so I think my hot take here would be just to follow your gut into finding what works for you. And every single coach works entirely differently. Eitan and I think we get along so well because we're polar opposites in business. Like our clients are opposite. So if I find someone who wouldn't work well with me, I'll send them to Eitan and vice versa. And then him and we jump on calls together to work together in our own businesses because of how different our minds are. But I do think that there's there's a lot of life coaches out there that give coaching and strategy a super duper bad rep. And listen to your gut, but find the ones that work. That would be my hot take.
So I would ask you. Oh, sorry, Sean, you want to say something?
I was going to jump in for a second because I love Hannah, period, but I love her approach to competition. Hannah welcomes competition like nobody else, and I try to emulate Hannah's approach.
Oh.
You put out a great video yesterday that said, someone came to you and said they're stealing your idea, and you're like, honey, I'm thinking 3 years ahead. Like, if you're stealing my idea today, you are so far behind the times. It's brilliant. I love working with people who do what I do because we can have exactly the kind of calls that you two do, and we can trade ideas. There's always something that I don't want to do that somebody else does, and vice versa. And we wind up strengthening relationships and trading ideas and referring back and forth. So I am a huge booster of that. But Alicia, I'll give you the floor.
So this aligns with something I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, which the podcast is not coming out tomorrow. So you'll see mine before you see this one. But it's been top of mind because I recently encountered someone who said they do brand strategy and brand development. And I pressed them, say, oh yeah, okay, well tell me more, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, it's only on my business card and website because it looks good. So you don't actually do brand strategy and brand development. No, it gets clients, it gets people interested, and then I just fake it. So I digress in asking you, Hannah, based on what you just said, find the right person. Are there some key things you can look for in a coach to make sure that they are actually a business coach and they're not just someone who was selling leggings and that didn't work and now they want to be a business coach?
That's a really hard one because a lot of in my opinion, some of the best coaches out there are ones that have made that career for themselves out of failed businesses. And so they've tried something, they've learned. They've tried something, they've learned. They've made a business, it started to grow. I another hot take or controversial thoughts. I don't actually think that every business needs a certificate. I'm born with a skill set of understanding business. It's how my mind works. I never went and I don't plan on getting certification because I work through a lot of things with clients and that's therefore how I learn. To find the right person to work for you, some people love the life coach that is into the woo woo yah stuff, and that's fabulous for them. And then some people are really interested in action-based business strategy, which is why you'd work with me. And so I think it's calling as many people as possible, sitting on the phone with them and comparing. You know what? It's kind of like therapy. I bring it back to that all the time. But my advice to people going to therapists or finding a therapist is don't stop at the first person you talk to. Go talk to a lot of therapists before you decide this one's going to be yours. They all do their own way of therapizing. So finding the person that works best for you, it's hard, it's difficult, but go through the multiple calls. I think like to Eitan's point, like your network is everything. And so contacting as many people as possible is just going to help you in the long run.
I love that. Eitan, do you have any like hard and fast rules around like red flags if someone is looking for a business coach?
I would say you have to be open to the idea that it's going to be way harder than you expect and that you're going to have to do work to actually achieve what you want. So you want to look for somebody who's going to address that challenge in a way that resonates with you, that's going to motivate you to take action. If they're too like a trainer in the gym who's going to make fun of you for not being able to lift weights and that doesn't resonate with you, then you're probably going to start to hate them and not do the work and then not see the results that you want. On the other end of the spectrum, if they're too high level and too fluffy about it and they never actually push you, you're going to end up with mediocre results or the same thing that you already are kind of doing. So I think look for somebody who's going to challenge you a little bit and share a different perspective, but not going to be so outside of the alignment of your values or how you relate to the world so that you're going to feel uncomfortable or you're going to feel like, the teacher's going to strike my hand with a ruler if I don't do my homework kind of vibe. So to Hannah's point, meet with a few and see who is ultimately going to feel like the right fit. And so much of what we do in coaching is really just 4 things: getting clarity, creating a plan for action, shifting your mindset, and being accountable. Doesn't matter what kind of niche you're in, those 4 things are always true. And so it really just ends up being, is this the right person who's going to help me get where I want to go?
I love that.
I'm going to throw one final question out there. And, there's a question that we've asked before, what's something you don't know that you want to know? But I think given that so much of coaching is about goal setting and kind of getting that clarity, and I know both of you are looking to grow your businesses and take them in new directions. So feel free. What's a goal that each of you has for your business that you're looking to achieve next, that you're comfortable sharing?
Hannah, you can go first.
Okay. I'm going global this year. I run an online community platform that allows freelancers, entrepreneurs, musicians, and creatives to connect. And I have the magic we, where it's just me doing a bunch of things behind the computer. I have decided to grow in various cities around the world. And this is actually the idea that is being stolen by multiple accounts. I keep getting messages about it. I know it's a good idea. I get it. And so the way it works is you join as many cities as you want around the world with the same like-minded people to connect both locally and globally. And I just, I can see it. And I know it's all coming to fruition this year. And by 2026, we'll have multiple cities open. And I'm like floored by my own genius. If I could say that, I am. And so, yeah, that's a big goal that I'm going after this year. Yeah.
Love it.
That's a big goal.
For me, I'm exploring how I can do less of sitting behind a screen as much as possible, because I think there's definitely merit to having this remote way of servicing clients and having conversations. I would much rather go for a walk or a hike with someone for half a day and help them through their challenges, if that's a possibility, or find new ways of connecting with people. I attended an entrepreneur dinner a number of weeks ago. I think there were 5 of us, very introvert friendly, which worked really well for me. We had a deep, meaningful conversation about business and the challenges that everyone around the table was facing. And I think it'd be really cool to explore how to do more of that, because it really goes against the trend of, like I was saying before, paid ad campaigns with very complicated funnels, and everybody's selling you a course and everybody wants you to be online and they don't really care about you. So like the opposite of that being building more deep, meaningful relationships in real life.
I love that.
Eitan, you should totally do that. Like
Yeah.
1,000 million trillion %. You can 1,000, I just said it so many times. 1,000%, you could take coaching back to in person. There was a time before, you know, the pandemic that we're not going to talk about. There was a time before that when majority of our calls were in person. I did one in-person session with a client of mine. She was really struggling. Like there was a block, a really big mental block happening. And I took her on a hike, and I'm not such a nice person all the time. I made her pick up like 20 sticks. I made her journal all the problems she has in business. And I made her pick up sticks for each problem that she had. And then on the hike back up a giant hill, I made her throw each stick away just to like mentally clear her mind. And it was one of the most incredible sessions we've done. Now, I don't want to do that regularly, but oh my goodness, you could totally just take all coaching in person. We should talk about it after the podcast.
Definitely.
That's a cool idea. I love it.
Eitan and I did 3 months together. Our first session and our last session were in person at the same mall over coffee. One was seated, one was a mall walk. But I'm really glad that we did it. It was just nice to get, as much as I enjoyed our video calls, it was nice to get that FaceTime. It's a different level of connection.
Completely. Agreed. Fully.
As you two are talking, the three of you are talking, I already have a tagline for the stick coaching, and then I also have your logo, Eitan, for so I've
stick coaching.
So I'm working. I'm always the brain is always on. So yeah, 2 ideas. Actually, I have a really good tagline for you, Hannah. I don't know where I'm going with that. I was just excited about it.
I think we get to thank our guests, unless you have anything else.
Let's thank them. So Eitan, where can we find you? Well, we know you don't have a website, so we can't find you to plug your website. But where can our listeners and viewers find you?
Well, it sounds like in the future you'll have to take a little piece of paper off of a poster somewhere on a phone pole. But the best way to reach me is actually either Eitan at catalystforimpact.ca. Very important, not .com, .ca. And if not, I'm on LinkedIn pretty much all the time. So you can connect with me there, or you can send me an email and let's have a conversation.
Hannah.
I love it. My business name is Start With Hannah. No matter where you're starting from, you can start with me. And so startwithhannah.com, start with Hannah. Oh my goodness. Start with Hannah on Instagram. That was actually a terrible nickname of mine in high school. So
suddenly you're back to Hannah.
Trauma.
You haven't been Hannah in years.
Oh my goodness, stop this. Startwithhannah.com is where you'll find how to work with me, what my services are, all about me. If you want to book me to, keynote speak, if you want to just book a call. And Start With Hannah is my Instagram, which is mostly branding. So it's mostly personal branding and what I've done in the past. Also, my stories are very unfiltered. And so if you want an inside scoop of my life, my Instagram stories are an interesting place to be. Sean's nodding.
If you ever want to know where Hannah is, Instagram will tell you. It's pretty much live 24/7. It's a bit of a one-woman Truman Show.
I'd like some more dog content.
I approve this message. I can do that, no problem.
Yeah. It was like a live stream, like the hippo, like Mudeng. You could just have a live, like 24/7 live stream. Like, what's Hannah doing at 4 a.m.?
Yeah,
posting. The answer is posting.
That's how Twitch.
Well, I have 3 Instagram pages now, so if I'm not posting, I'm posting. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you for educating our audience. I hope you've had a good time. We certainly have. We're grateful that you came out today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. There's we covered a lot more than I thought we were gonna cover. Like, I was surprised at the breadth of this facet of branding.
They're both great people and great speakers. They're great professionals. I'm glad we spoke about, and I really do love Hannah's approach to competition. You know, those are two folks who are in the same industry. And look, we saw it in the last episode with Jess and Richard, where, you know, effectively they are competitors, but we're able to have this great conversation kind of as friends and colleagues. There's always room for those. I truly believe that. And I love that we're doing that with this season. I think we have so much more to share when we work together, and that a rising tide really does lift all boats.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I love having people like this on the show because I'm by nature a very competitive person, and I'm really working hard to recognize it is just about helping people, and there's a plenty of business to go around. And I think they hit the nail on the head with really, really key pieces of success here, and that knowing who you are, doing the work up front. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways of our entire podcast is getting your foundation and doing a lot of the work up front.
Showing up as you, knowing who you want, what you're looking for. And these are all things that coaching can help you get there with. But once you have that clarity, you're not going to be threatened by someone else's success. You know exactly what lane you're looking to play in. And so other drivers on the road won't bother you. It's about sharing the road, literally sharing the road.
I love that so much. I love that algorithm.
There you go. It's been a lot of fun.
It is.
So where can everyone find you, Alicia?
I was just going to ask you the same question. Can you believe that?
Well, then I will go first.
You go first.
I'll take the wheel. I am The Right Stuff Agency, WRITE. I now have some help with my social media. It's actually been really helpful for me for my outreach. So you can find me across the board at The Right Stuff Agency on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can also find my personal LinkedIn because I have a lot of other content there at Sean Bernstein. But I am, or Sean at therightstuff.agency. Website is therightstuff.agency. I am always around and happy to chat about your writing needs. And you?
You can find me at 38th and Kip. You just type that in Google. That's the numbers 38 and Kip, KIP. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, and my website. You can view all of the agency's work, 38andkip.com. You can also find me across the web at my name, Alicia DeSantis. That's DISANTIS. And if you search for me, you'll find me.
There you go. Awesome. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.